Hi, welcome back. I'm going to very quickly now go through the second part of simple accruals and prepayments. But what we're going to focus on in here is going to be a couple of different areas to what we've looked at last time. What we're going to focus on is going to be how we record them in the income statement, how we record them in the statement of financial position, but I will go through and do these three examples as well as T accounts or ledger accounts, because that's often what students find most difficult. Okay, so we'll start doing the ledger account entries, and then we'll move on to the income statement, statement of financial position. The easy marks and eggs, you can't afford to lose these, are the actual payments. So that's what will appear in the trial balance, or you'll be told in the question. And there'll be credit entries in the bank because these are all expenses, and there'll be debit entries in any accounts you are looking at. So we can't really afford to lose these marks because there's perhaps 4 marks for the question, and those marks are the really easy ones, and it tends to be something where other students are going to score poorly. All right, what we're going to do next is look at what we're going to do with the accruals and prepayments. Well, the first one is the wages, and for the wages, $400 is owing to employees. So that should have been an expense for this year. So it's going to go on the debit side as an accrual carried forward. Okay, and because there's a carried forward, we're also going to have to bring in an accrual brought forward. And it's going to go on the credit side for 2 reasons. One, it's got to be on the opposite side to the carried forward figure. And the other reason, it's also a liability. We owe that money at the start of the next year. Balance off the account, so 15,400, 15,400, and therefore the amount going to the income statement is going to be 15,400. Motor vehicle repairs. Well, again for this one we've got an accrual because we've got a bill not yet being paid, so that's going to be 600, and it's an accrual carried forward, so I can copy that and I can paste that in there. Okay. Again, my accrual brought forward is going to be 600 because at the start of next year I still owe 600. Total is 10,600. I know that because the totals on both sides have got to equal 10,600. Okay, next one is stationery. This one's a funny one. We've got £1,200 worth of stationery still in the store cupboard. So effectively we've paid for $1,200 worth of stationery that we haven't yet used. So although the expense is 10,000, 1,200 of that expense belongs to the following year. So that's a prepayment carried forward. Okay, 10,000, the debit side is still the bigger side, so 10,000 in on the debit side, 10,000 goes on the credit side, and therefore we're going to have 8,800 appearing in the income statement as the expense. And then what I've forgotten to do, what we need to do is make sure we've got the balance brought forward because we've got the balance carried forward. That's your prepayment brought forward, and it's $1,200, and it's on the debit side because it's for next year. It's going to be part of next year's expenses, but it's an asset at the start of the year. We've paid for something that we haven't yet used. How is this all going to look in the income statement, the balance sheet? Well, income statement, pretty straightforward. Looking back here at the wages, I know it's going to be 15,400 because I've done the T account, but if I hadn't done the T account, I still know that the calculation for the wages is going to be $15,000, and then I look down here and I've got an accrual of 400. Rule of thumb, accruals add, they both start with A. I need to add on $400 of extra expense for this year. So the total expense for wages is 15,400. Motor repairs. Okay, well the motor repairs were 10,000. I haven't yet paid $600 worth of motor repairs, so I'm going to add them on. So my total for my motor repair should have been 10,600. And stationery, well, I've spent 10,000, okay, but 1,200 is going to be used next year, so I need to take that off. Okay, so my total for that is going to be 8,800. I need to put in my gross profit because I'm doing an extract and we've told that in the question. So the gross profit was 45,000. I need to work out the total of all my expenses. So it's the sum of those three numbers, 34,800. And then what I need to do is subtract the total of my expenses from my gross profit, and that gives me profit for the year. So that's pretty simple. Notice I've shown the calculations. You need to do that. There'll be up to 3 marks available for these numbers in your exam. 2 marks for identifying the figures that you need to use, and 1 mark for the calculation. So if you make a calculator error, or you add rather than subtract, and you haven't shown your workings, you get 0 marks. Life's tough, unfortunately, like that. In the statement of financial position, the recorded is both other receivables and other payables. So other payables are going to be your accruals. So I'll put a note down here, they're your accruals, your accrued incomes, because we owe the money. And we've got 2 accruals. So again, showing my workings, I've got 400 and also 600 that are accrued because of my wages are owed and my motor vehicle repairs are owed. So my total of my other payables and the current liabilities is 1,000. And my other receivables, that's my prepayments, and that's because I'm owed the money. Okay, and there's only one of those, so I'm not going to put the sum in. I could do, put it in brackets, but I just know that there's 1,200 worth of stationery. Alright, worksheets for you guys to do, very, very straightforward. It's basically the same as I've just been doing. You've got the income statements, statement of financial position extracts to do. Depending on where you are in your course, you may or may not need to do the T accounts. If you're a year 11 student, year 12 or year 13, you'd certainly need to filter the T accounts. Year 10s, fantastic if you can do it. If you can't do it, we'll be coming back to it next year anyway. But I'd like you to be able to do the income statement and statement of financial position. Thanks very much for listening. Good luck with the work. For those who's homework, a reminder, send me back your completed worksheets and I'll mark them. Those who've not done it as homework, you'll actually have some answers available to you. You can check your answers off and then ask me if you don't understand anything. Thanks for being a great audience, and I'll see you all soon.